There is a version of Family Guy that most people think they have watched. A fat man does something stupid. A dog drinks a martini. A baby speaks with a British accent for reasons nobody questions. The family is dysfunctional. The comedy is offensive. The cutaway gags interrupt every scene before any real emotion has a chance to land. And somewhere underneath all of the chicken fights, and the Peter holding his knee gags, and the musical numbers, and the celebrity cameos, there are actual characters. People the show has been quietly building, quietly breaking, and quietly examining across 24 seasons and more than 450 episodes without ever stopping to announce what it was doing. Most people do not watch Family Guy for the characters. They watch it for the jokes. That is what the show sells. That is what ends up clipped and posted online. That is what gets quoted at parties and referenced in group chats and turned into memes that outlive the episodes they came from. The characters are there, but they are furniture. They are the delivery system for the punchline, the vessel for the gag, the body that falls down so the audience can laugh at the way it lands. But the jokes are sitting on top of something else entirely, something the show has been planting since January 31st, 1999, when the pilot episode aired on Fox and introduced a family that looked, on the surface, like a cruder version of The Simpsons. Something the show has been developing across more than 2 decades of cancellations and revivals and controversies and cast changes and format experiments and 400+ episodes of accumulated storytelling that nobody was supposed to take seriously. Because it is a cartoon. Because it is a comedy. Because it is Family Guy, and Family Guy does not do serious, except it does. It has been doing serious for 25 years. It just hides it inside the jokes so thoroughly that you have to stop laughing before you can see what is actually there. What is actually there are secrets about who these people are, about what the show has been quietly saying about each of them since the very beginning, about the version of every character that only becomes visible when you look past the cutaway gags and the slapstick and the offensive humour and examine what is left when all of that is stripped away. This is 2 hours of Family Guy lore, but it is not about the chicken fights or the Star Wars parodies or the Conway Twitty bits. It is about the people, the Griffin family, the neighbours, the town they live in, and what the show has been hiding about every single one of them in plain sight for a quarter of a century. It starts with the person the show has spent the most time destroying, the person every other character in the house treats as disposable, the person the audience learned to laugh at before they ever learned to listen to. Because the darkest secret Family Guy keeps about Meg Griffin is not that her family hates her. It is why the show needs them to. There is a moment in the 10th season of Family Guy that changes everything about how you understand the show. It happens during a hurricane. The Griffin family is trapped inside their house, unable to leave, unable to distract themselves with the outside world, forced to sit in the same room and deal with each other for an extended period of time. The episode is called Seahorse Seashell Party. It aired on October 2nd, 2011, and for most of its runtime, it looks like a standard Family Guy episode. Brian takes mushrooms and hallucinates. The family plays games to pass the time. Peter makes fun of Meg. Lois ignores it. Chris piles on. The usual. Then Meg snaps. Not in the way characters snap in comedies, where the outburst is the punchline, and everything resets by the next scene. Meg snaps in a way the show has never allowed her to snap before. She turns on every member of her family, one at a time, and tells them exactly what she thinks of them. She tells Chris he is a bad brother. She tells Lois and Peter they are bad parents. She catalogues years of abuse, not in vague terms, not as a general complaint, but with specifics, with receipts, with the accumulated evidence of someone who has been keeping count, even when it looked like she was just absorbing it. The family does not handle this well. They do not listen. They do not reflect. They do not apologise. What happens instead is that the moment Meg stops absorbing their dysfunction, the family turns on each other. Peter attacks Lois. Lois attacks Chris. Everyone finds a new target. The structure of the household, the thing that kept these people functioning as a unit, collapses within minutes of Meg refusing to be the person at the bottom. Peter literally runs upstairs crying. The man who has spent 10 seasons as the loudest, most destructive person in the house is reduced to tears the moment his daughter stops volunteering to be his punching bag. Brian sees what happened. He congratulates Meg for standing up for herself. He tells her she did the right thing. And then the show does something that critics and fans have argued about ever since. Meg apologizes. She goes back to her family. She tells them she is sorry. She restores their egos. She puts the structure back together. And the reason she gives for doing this is the most disturbing line the show has ever given any character. She tells Brian that the family cannot survive without a lightning rod. Someone to absorb the dysfunction. Someone to take the blame, the insults, the cruelty, the neglect, so that the rest of them do not turn it on each other. She looked at the system she lives inside, understood its mechanics with perfect clarity, and concluded that her role as the family's scapegoat is not an accident. It is structural, it is necessary, and without it, the Griffins would destroy themselves. Then she went back inside and volunteered to keep doing it. Think about what that means. A teenage girl looked at her own abuse, not from the outside, not with the distance of a therapist or a teacher or a friend, but from inside the system itself, and decided to stay. Not because she forgave them, not because she believed the abuse was justified, because she understood that the alternative was the collapse of the only family she has. The show aired this. It presented this reading of Meg's character in explicit terms. And then the very next week, everything went back to normal. Peter said, "Shut up, Meg." Lois ignored her. Chris piled on. The show reset, the way it always resets, and Meg went back to being the joke. But the information from Seahorse Seashell Party did not go away. You cannot unknow what that episode tells you. Every Meg joke that follows it, across every subsequent season, exists in the context of a girl who was shown to understand exactly what is being done to her, and who chose to accept it because the alternative was worse. To understand why the show built Meg this way, you have to go back to the beginning and watch the abuse escalate. In the first season of Family Guy, Meg was not a punching bag. She was an insecure teenager, self-conscious about her appearance, worried about fitting in at school, desperate for a boyfriend, awkward in the way that actual teenagers are awkward, not grotesque, just uncomfortable in her own skin. The show treated her as a normal member of the family. Her problems were real problems. Her feelings were treated as valid. She had storylines that existed for their own sake, not as setups for someone else's joke. Mila Kunis took over the voice role from Lacey Chabert starting around the end of season 1, and the transition happened because Chabert had scheduling conflicts with school and her role on Party of Five. Kunis brought something different to the character, a flatness to the delivery, a resignation that read initially as dry humour, but over the seasons became something closer to genuine exhaustion. And as the voice changed, the writing changed with it. By season 4, the jokes about Meg had shifted. They were no longer about her insecurity, they were about her existence. The family stopped teasing her and started rejecting her. Peter's catchphrase toward his own daughter became "Shut up, Meg." Not as a response to something she said, as a response to the fact that she was speaking at all. The show began treating Meg's presence in a scene as inherently funny, not because of what she did, but because of who she was, or more accurately, because of who the show had decided she was going to be. Seth MacFarlane described it in an interview. He compared Meg to Marilyn Munster on The Munsters, the normal one surrounded by monsters, the person whose ordinariness is the joke in a house full of absurdity. Meg is the most normal person in the Griffin family. She is the most grounded, the most empathetic, the most self-aware, and the show punishes her for it relentlessly, because in the world of Family Guy, normal is the worst thing you can be. The abuse escalated across seasons in ways that stopped feeling like comedy and started feeling like something the show was documenting. Peter physically assaulted Meg in multiple episodes. He traded her for goods. He forgot she existed. He wished for a meteor to crush her during Stewie's birthday. Chris sometimes shared her treatment and sometimes participated in it. Lois, who the show positioned as the family's moral centre, almost never intervened. She put Meg down for her lack of social achievement. She undermined her confidence. She enabled Peter's behaviour by choosing not to confront it. The show built a comprehensive record of domestic abuse against a teenage girl and presented it as the longest-running joke in the series. And most of the audience accepted it. Because it was animated. Because the reset button got pressed every week. Because Peter is fat and funny, and the show plays the tuba sound when he falls down, and you are not supposed to take any of it seriously. But then the show would occasionally crack the surface and show you what was underneath. In the Season 8 episode Dial Meg for Murder, Meg goes to prison. When she comes back, she is different. Hard, violent. She beats Peter. She dominates the household. She takes his position at the top of the family's power structure and uses it the same way he used it, with cruelty, with force, with the casual indifference of someone who has stopped seeing the people around her as anything other than objects to be managed. The show proved in that episode that Meg has the capacity to fight back. She is not weak. She is not helpless. She is making a choice every single day to absorb what the family gives her instead of returning it. Kevin McFarland at the AV Club reviewed the Seahorse Seashell Party episode and gave it a D+. He wrote that nobody cares about any member of the Griffin family the way we care about every last Simpson. He said he felt bad about Meg becoming the scapegoat, not because she was a good character, but because instead of working to make her appreciated or comically valuable, Family Guy spent years going down the path of least resistance and joined the fan chorus of hatred. He called it one episode of pointed, forced justification for a shift that one episode could not change. He was right about the episode failing to change anything. He was wrong about what the episode was trying to do. The show was not trying to fix Meg's situation. It was trying to explain it. To lay out, in terms the audience could not misunderstand, that the cruelty Meg endures is not random. It is systematic. It has a function within the family. And removing it does not free Meg. It destroys the family. There is something worth noting about the later seasons. Starting around season 14 and becoming more visible from season 20 onward, the show began to ease off. The abuse of Meg became less frequent. The family started embracing her instead of ridiculing her. In Peter's Sister, from season 14, Meg notices that Peter's pro wrestler sister, Karen, treats Peter the exact same way Peter treats Meg. The two of them bond over this shared experience. It is one of the only times in the show's history that Peter's abuse of Meg is acknowledged by another character as wrong rather than funny. But 15+ seasons of systematic cruelty are baked into the character permanently. The improvement does not erase the record. It just adds a new chapter to a story that was already written. Meg Griffin spent the majority of the show's run as the designated target. She spent one episode understanding exactly why. And then she went back. The show did not redeem her. It did not save her. It did not give her a moment of triumph that lasted beyond the end credits. What it did was something worse and something more honest. It showed her the full picture of her own situation, let her make a clear-eyed decision about it, and then respected that decision by continuing to treat her exactly the way she understood she would be treated. Meg is not the victim of bad writing. She is the victim of a show that knew exactly what it was doing to her, told her what it was doing, watched her choose to stay, and then went back to doing it. That is the first secret. Not that Meg is abused. Everyone who has ever watched 10 minutes of Family Guy knows Meg is abused. The secret is that Meg knows too, and she decided the abuse was preferable to what would happen without it. She looked at the lightning and she grabbed the rod, which raises a question about the person who put her in that position more than anyone else. Not the writers, the character. Because Peter Griffin is not the lovable idiot the show has spent 24 seasons pretending he is. The show told you exactly what Peter is in season 4. It classified him, it gave him a diagnosis, and then it used that diagnosis as a shield to let him do things that, listed plainly, would make him one of the most destructive characters in the history of American television. And the show did it all while playing the tuba sound every time he fell down. In the 6th episode of Family Guy's 4th season, an episode called Petarded, Peter Griffin takes a test. He has been insufferable after winning a game of Trivial Pursuit, talking down to everyone in his life, convinced he is a genius. Brian, tired of the performance, challenges Peter to apply for the MacArthur Genius Grant. Peter takes the test, the results come back, and the show reveals something that, in any other context, would be treated as a serious and sensitive piece of character information. Peter Griffin is intellectually disabled. The show uses the clinical language of the time. The diagnosis is real. It is not a joke that gets resolved by the end of the episode. It stays. The show confirms it and then carries it forward into everything Peter does from that point on. What happens immediately after the diagnosis is the part that matters. Peter does not struggle with the news. He does not experience a crisis of identity. He does not sit with the weight of learning something difficult about himself. He realizes almost instantly that the diagnosis is useful, that being classified the way he has been classified means he can get away with things. He tests this by running over Tom Tucker with his car. Tucker is furious until he sees who did it, and then he lets Peter go without calling the police. Peter processes this in real time. He understands that his diagnosis is a shield, and he begins using it immediately. The episode escalates. Peter kicks open doors in women's restrooms. He steals a deep fryer from a fast food restaurant. He pours hot grease all over Lois, badly burning her, badly enough that she ends up in the hospital. And while Lois is in the hospital, Child Protective Services takes the children away because Peter has been deemed mentally unfit to be a parent. Cleveland takes temporary custody of the Griffin kids. The episode resolves, Peter gets the kids back, everything resets, but the diagnosis never goes away. The show confirmed in season 4 that Peter Griffin is not simply a bumbling father or a well-meaning idiot or any of the other labels that sitcoms use to make male incompetence endearing. He is a man with a documented cognitive limitation who immediately understood how to weaponize it. That combination, the inability to fully process consequences paired with the ability to exploit his own condition, is what makes Peter the most dangerous person in Quahog. Watch what the show documents across the next 20 seasons with this information in mind. Peter physically assaults his daughter in multiple episodes across the series, not accidentally, not as collateral damage from one of his schemes, directly. The "shut up Meg" catchphrase is not a joke. It is a behavioural pattern, documented across hundreds of episodes, of a father silencing his child through verbal aggression every time she attempts to participate in family life. The show treats this as one of its most reliable comedy engines. It works because the audience accepted the premise that Meg deserves it, or that Peter does not know better, or that none of it is real because it is a cartoon. But the show itself, through the petarded diagnosis, told you that Peter does know better. He proved he could identify and exploit a system within minutes of learning about it. The man is not unaware. He is unconcerned. In season 5, Peter accidentally kills his adoptive father, Francis Griffin. The word accidentally is doing heavy lifting in that sentence. Francis dies and Peter's response is not grief, but curiosity. He discovers that Francis was not his biological father. His real father is an Irishman named Mickey McFinnigan. Peter travels to Ireland, meets Mickey, bonds with him, and comes home. The show gives Peter a dead father and a new father in the same episode. The emotional weight of patricide, even accidental patricide, is processed and discarded within 22 minutes. That is not a character flaw. That is a character diagnosis, the same one the show already gave him, playing out in real time. Peter declared his property a sovereign nation in Season 2. He started an unauthorized television network to bypass FCC censorship in Season 4. He is engaged in welfare fraud, identity theft, assault, destruction of property on a scale that would require federal intervention if it happened in a real town. His recurring fights with the giant chicken produce destruction that levels city blocks. The show never counts the casualties of these fights, but the imagery suggests hundreds of deaths across the series. Peter walks away from every one of them. He goes to the drunken clam. He drinks with his friends. The city rebuilds. The dead stay dead, presumably, but nobody checks. When the Galactic Federation occupies Earth in the Season 10 premiere, an event the show frames as a dystopian takeover, Peter thrives. He gets a job. He gets a sense of purpose. He is content under authoritarian rule in a way he has never been content in his regular life. The show plays this as a joke about Peter being simple, but it reads differently with the petarded diagnosis in place. Peter functions best when someone else is making the decisions. He does not want freedom. He wants structure imposed from the outside because he cannot generate it from the inside. The Federation gave him exactly what a person with his specific limitations would need to feel stable, and the show took it away from him in the name of restoring the status quo. Peter Griffin is not a lovable idiot. He is a case study in what happens when a person with no impulse control, no capacity for lasting empathy, and a documented cognitive disability is placed at the center of a family with no external support system. Every member of the Griffin household has been shaped by proximity to him. Meg's role as the scapegoat exists because Peter needed one, and the family organized itself around his needs. Lois's enabling exists because managing Peter is the full-time job she never applied for, but cannot quit. Chris's invisibility exists because the family only has room for one demanding presence, and Peter occupies it completely. Even Brian and Stewie, the two characters who operate most independently, define themselves in relation to Peter. Brian as the intellectual counterpoint, Stewie as the infant who outgrew his father before he could walk. The show classified Peter in Season 4 and then spent 20 years using that classification as the engine of its comedy. It is not that the jokes are not funny, many of them are. It is that the jokes are built on a foundation that, examined honestly, describes a household organized around the needs of its most destructive member at the expense of everyone else in it. That is not a sitcom premise, that is a clinical description of a dysfunctional family system. The show just happens to set it to music and play the tuba when the central figure falls down. And the dysfunction does not stay inside the house. It radiates outward into every relationship Peter has. His friendship with Joe Swanson, Quagmire, and Cleveland Brown at the Drunken Clam is presented as the warm centre of Peter's social life. Four guys drinking at a bar, telling stories, supporting each other in the way that sitcom friend groups have always supported each other. But the show documents, quietly and across hundreds of episodes, that Peter treats his friends the same way he treats his family. He uses them. He endangers them. He drags them into schemes that cost them money, dignity, safety, and in some cases, nearly their lives. Joe has been paralysed from the waist down for the entire run of the series. Peter regularly mocks this. He does not modify his behaviour around Joe's disability. He does not accommodate it. He treats Joe's paralysis the way he treats Meg's existence, as material for a joke he is too committed to the punchline to question. Cleveland left. This is a fact the show tends to gloss over, but Cleveland Brown moved away. He got his own show. He relocated to Stoolbend, Virginia. He built a life outside the orbit of Peter Griffin. And when the Cleveland show was cancelled after 4 seasons, Cleveland came back to Quahog, back to the Drunken Clam, back to the same seat at the same bar with the same man who'd been driving him away for a decade. The show played his return as a reunion, a celebration. The group was back together. But the reason Cleveland left in the first place was never fully addressed. He left because the ecosystem around Peter was exhausting. He came back because the show needed him in the chair. The characters serve the format. The format does not serve the characters. That is the rule in Quahog, and nobody's allowed to outgrow it. Peter's relationship with Quahog itself is the relationship of a natural disaster to the town it keeps hitting. He has destroyed businesses, damaged public property, caused injuries to strangers who have no connection to his family or his schemes. The town absorbs it. The town rebuilds. The town forgets. Quahog is a community organised around the same principle as the Griffin household. There is a destructive force at the centre, and everyone around it has learned to accommodate the destruction rather than confront it. The town is the family writ large, and Peter is the centre of both. Before we move on, if you're enjoying this, subscribing is completely free, and it is the main reason videos like this one get made. Now, there is one member of the Griffin family whose darkness runs deeper than Peter's destructiveness, deeper than Meg's sacrifice, deeper than anything the show revealed in its first 15 seasons. One character the show spent 16 years building as a cartoon supervillain before sitting him down in a chair and pulling his entire identity apart in a single episode. Because the third secret in this video is not about what Stewie Griffin does, it is about who Stewie Griffin actually is. And the answer, when the show finally gave it, was the quietest and most devastating reveal in the history of the series. In the first season of Family Guy, Stewie Griffin is a monster. There is no gentler way to describe what the show presents. He is a baby. He speaks with an upper-class British accent. He is obsessed with two things. The first is killing his mother, Lois. The second is world domination. These are not metaphors. These are not exaggerations played for effect. The show's earliest episodes depict Stewie building weapons, constructing elaborate machines of destruction, and articulating his desire to murder his mother with total clarity and absolute sincerity. He is a homicidal infant genius, and the show plays this completely straight for its first several seasons. Then something changes, not suddenly, not in a single episode. Gradually, across seasons 4 through 7, the world domination fixation fades. The murder plots against Lois become less frequent and eventually disappear. Stewie's relationship with Brian deepens into something that looks like genuine friendship. His cruelty becomes more nuanced, more human, less cartoonish. The show is quietly dismantling the premise it built him on, replacing the supervillain with something more complicated and ultimately more interesting. But it never explains why. It never gives a reason for the shift. It just lets it happen and trusts the audience to follow. The reason arrives on March 18th, 2018, Season 16, Episode 12. The episode is called Send in Stewie, Please. It is the 301st episode of the series. It was written by Gary Janetti and directed by Joe Vaught. It aired on Fox with limited commercial interruption, the first episode in the show's 16-season history to do so, sponsored entirely by a single advertisement for the video game God of War that ran before and after the episode. The runtime was 25 minutes of uninterrupted content. No cutaway gags, no other family members appear except Brian briefly at the very end. It is, by any measure, the most structurally unusual episode Family Guy has ever produced. The entire episode takes place in the office of Dr. Cecil Pritchfield, a child psychologist at Stewie's preschool. Pritchfield is voiced by Ian McKellen. Stewie has been sent to see him after pushing a classmate named Tyler down the stairs. The session begins with small talk. Stewie is performing. He is doing what he always does, being charming, being clever, being the character the audience has watched for 16 seasons. Pritchfield listens. He observes, and then he says something that cracks the surface. He tells Stewie he is lonely. Stewie cries, not in the theatrical way the show usually depicts emotion. He cries the way a child cries when someone sees through the thing he built to protect himself. The doctor has identified the real person underneath the performance, and Stewie was not prepared for anyone to look that closely. What follows is the most honest 20 minutes of television Family Guy has ever produced. Stewie talks about his accent. He brings it up himself, proudly, the way a child presents something they are proud of having built. Pritchfield, who is actually British, tells Stewie he cannot hear any accent. Stewie is confused. He cycles through other voices, doing Peter, doing Quagmire, doing several other characters, all voiced by Seth MacFarlane, and Pritchfield says they all sound the same to him. The joke is that MacFarlane voices all of them. The deeper point is that Stewie's carefully constructed persona is invisible to the one person in the room who actually has the accent Stewie is imitating. Then Stewie drops the act. His voice changes. The British accent disappears. What comes out is American, higher-pitched, suburban, completely ordinary, the voice of a normal child from a normal town in New England. He says, and these are his words, "Everything about me is this carefully constructed persona designed to keep people at arm's length. This is not even how I really talk. The accent is nothing more than an affectation, a coat of armour to get me through the day. Just an image I cultivated so I could feel special." Gary Janetti, the writer, explained the choice in an interview with TV Line after the episode aired. He said, "I liked the idea of that being the reveal. It felt truthful that somebody who did not feel like he fit in would create an artificial personality. To an extent, that is what he has done. And then to have Ian's character, the one person he is sharing this big secret with, not even hear the difference, was another fun opportunity. It felt like a good way to show Stewie's insecurities in a way that felt truthful to the history of the series." The episode also addresses Stewie's sexuality. This had been a running thread across the entire show. Stewie's attraction to men had been hinted at, joked about, occasionally stated, and then walked back, across 16 seasons. In the therapy session, Stewie tells Pritchfield he is straight. Then he reconsiders. He says the word fluid is something he hears being tossed around a lot. He questions whether heterosexual is even a real word. The show does not give him a definitive answer. It leaves his sexuality uncertain, and the creative team was deliberate about this. Executive producer Rich Appel told TV Line that Stewie's uncertainty gives him a vulnerability, which is something we need to maintain for the series. Seth MacFarlane had confirmed in a 2009 interview that Stewie is gay, but the show itself has never committed to a single label, treating his sexuality as one more piece of the persona he is still building. The ending of the episode is where the darkness lives. Pritchfield begins to have a heart attack. He is in pain. He reaches for his medication. He asks Stewie to hand it to him. Stewie looks at the medication. He looks at Pritchfield, and he does nothing. He watches the only person who's ever seen through his facade die on the floor of the office. Not out of malice, not out of cruelty, in the way the show's early seasons depicted Stewie's violence. He lets Pritchfield die because Pritchfield knew the truth. Because the only person outside the performance was also the only threat to the performance continuing. Pritchfield uses his last breath to deliver a final correction. Stewie had attributed a Shakespeare quote to Macbeth. Pritchfield tells him it is from Romeo and Juliet. And then he adds, "But I would not expect you to know, since you are not, in any way, British." He dies with the truth on his lips, thrown back at the child who killed him for knowing it. That night, Stewie wakes up screaming. He is haunted. He asks Brian to come sleep in his room. He tells Brian he has done something awful, but he does not elaborate. The show leaves it ambiguous whether the therapy session was real or a dream. It does not matter. The information is real either way. The accent is fake. The persona is constructed. The child underneath it is lonely and frightened and ordinary and incapable of letting anyone know. What this means for 16 seasons of the show is staggering. Every world domination plot was a performance. Every moment of theatrical cruelty was a child putting on a show, because the alternative was being seen as what he actually is, which is small and scared and unremarkable. The genius is real. Stewie's intelligence is genuine. But the way he deploys it, the accent, the grandiosity, the elaborate schemes, the British mannerisms, all of it is armour. A coat, as he said himself, to get him through the day. The show let that coat stay on for 16 years before pulling it off. And then it had Stewie kill the tailor. He is not evil. He is not a supervillain. He is not the cartoon monster the first 3 seasons presented him as. He is a child in a house where his father is intellectually disabled and physically dangerous, where his mother enables the chaos, where his sister absorbs the abuse, where his brother is invisible, where the only person who treats him as a real person is the family dog. He built an entire identity to survive that house. He gave himself a voice that did not belong to anyone in it. He gave himself ambitions that were larger than anything the house could contain. He made himself into someone who could not be ignored, because in the Griffin household, being ignored is what happens to the people who are not loud enough, or broken enough, or destructive enough to demand attention. Stewie Griffin is the show's most elaborately constructed lie. And the show told you the truth about him once, in a near-commercial free episode that most of the audience has either forgotten or filed away as a one-off experiment. But the truth does not go away. Every episode that followed, Send in Stewie, please, exists in the context of a child who told a dying man exactly who he really is, and then went back to pretending. The accent came back the next week. The persona was restored. The show reset, but the information stayed. And once you have it, you cannot watch Stewie the same way again. The baby who talks like a British aristocrat is a kid from Rhode Island who is terrified of being ordinary. He chose the mask, he killed to protect it, and every giggly, villainous, brilliant moment you have ever laughed at was the mask doing exactly what he designed it to do, keeping you entertained enough to never look underneath. Which brings the story to the person Stewie trusts more than anyone else in the world. The person he called into his room that night. The person the show positioned for over a decade as the Griffin family's conscience, its moral centre, its voice of reason in a household full of chaos. Because Brian Griffin is not who the show spent years pretending he was. And the way the show proved, it was the most dramatic thing it has ever done. Brian Griffin was designed to be the smartest person in the room. That is his function in the show's original architecture. He reads, he writes novels, he drinks martinis, he votes Democrat, he argues philosophy with a baby and holds his own. He is the family dog in the biological sense, but the family intellectual in the functional sense. While Peter breaks things and Meg absorbs the damage and Stewie builds weapons in the basement, Brian is supposed to be the one who sees the situation clearly, the one who knows better, the one who, if the Griffin household were a real family, would be the person you would want making the important decisions. The show built him this way in the first 3 seasons, and then it spent the next 9 seasons proving that every single part of that image was a lie. Brian's novels are terrible. The show does not hedge on this. It does not suggest that Brian is an underappreciated talent or that the world is not ready for his work. It shows you the novels, it shows you the writing, it shows you the reviews. Brian is a bad writer who believes he is a great writer, and the gap between those two things is the engine of nearly every Brian-centered episode the show has produced. He writes a bestseller in 1 episode, and it turns out to be a shallow self-help book he is embarrassed by. He writes a screenplay that gets turned into a terrible sitcom. He writes an award-winning piece and then cannot handle the success. Every time Brian tries to be the artist he believes he is, the show shows you the artist he actually is, and the two are not even close. His politics are performative. The show documents this with a specificity that stops feeling like comedy and starts feeling like a case file. Brian lectures Peter about tolerance and then dates a parade of women he selected entirely for their physical appearance. He advocates for liberal causes and then reveals he has done nothing concrete to support them beyond talking about them at dinner parties that nobody invited him to. He positions himself as morally superior to Peter, to Quagmire, to the entire town of Quahog, and the show consistently, across episode after episode, reveals that the superiority is a costume. It covers the same insecurities, the same selfishness, the same capacity for cruelty that every other character in the show displays openly. The difference is that Brian thinks the costume makes him better. Nobody else in the house bothers to wear one. He is an alcoholic. This is not subtext. Brian drinks constantly throughout every season of the series. He drinks the way Peter eats, which is to say, without limit and without consequence for most of the show's run. The difference is that Peter's excess is presented as slapstick. Brian's excess is presented as sophistication. A martini in the hand of a dog who reads Hemingway is charming. A martini in the hand of a dog who reads Hemingway and cannot hold a relationship together and treats women like accessories and has been confronted by multiple characters about his drinking and does not change is not charming. It is the same dysfunction Peter displays, dressed up in a better vocabulary. The moment the show makes this most explicit is not a Brian episode, it is a Quagmire episode. In Season 8, Episode 7, Jerome is the New Black. Brian attempts to bond with Glenn Quagmire, who openly dislikes him. Brian asks why, and Quagmire delivers a speech that the show lets land without a single cutaway gag, without a single interruption, without any of the usual mechanisms the show uses to deflect from a moment that is cutting too close to the bone. Quagmire tells Brian he is a bore. He tells him he is an alcoholic. He tells him he mistreats women while lecturing others about respect. He tells him his writing is bad. He tells him he is pretentious and hypocritical, and that every quality Brian believes makes him superior is actually the thing that makes him insufferable. And he finishes by telling Brian that all of this would be tolerable if it were not for the fact that Brian is, underneath everything, a big, sad, alcoholic bore. The show does not let Brian recover from this. There is no comeback. There is no rebuttal. The man who has a response for everything sits in silence while Quagmire catalogues his failures. Stewie comforts Brian afterward. He tells him the only person who needs to like Brian is Brian. But the information from Quagmire's speech does not go away. It sits on top of every subsequent Brian episode like a weight, because Quagmire was not wrong about any of it. The show had already proven every single claim he made. It just took a character with no patience for performance to say it out loud. Then the show killed him. On November 24th, 2013, in Season 12, Episode 6, an episode called Life of Brian, the show did something it had never done before. It killed a member of the core family. Brian and Stewie were setting up a street hockey net on the road outside the Griffin house. Stewie went inside to get his knee pads, and while Brian was alone on the street, a car came around the corner and hit him. The show did not play this as a joke. Brian was taken to the vet. The family gathered around him. He was dying. The scene held on him, on the family, on the reality of what was happening. Brian's last words were, "I love you all," and then he died. The family held a funeral. They buried their dog. They mourned. And then a month later, in the show's timeline, they went to a pet store and adopted a new dog named Vinny, voiced by Tony Sirico from The Sopranos. Life went on. The fan reaction was unlike anything the show had experienced in 14 years of broadcasting. A petition appeared on change.org within hours demanding Brian's return. It became one of the fastest growing entertainment petitions on the site. Fans threatened to boycott the show. They sent hostile messages to Fox and to Seth MacFarlane personally. Some fans got memorial tattoos. The collective grief and fury over the death of a cartoon dog was, by any measurable standard, disproportionate to what had happened. A fictional character on a comedy show had been killed off. This happens on television constantly, but this was Brian, And Brian, despite everything the show had spent 9 seasons proving about him, still mattered to the people watching. Seth MacFarlane addressed it in January 2014. He said, "We were all very surprised, in a good way, that people still cared enough about that character to be that angry. We thought it would create a little bit of a stir, but the rage was not something we counted on." Steve Callahan, the show's writer, had explained the decision a month earlier. He told E! That it was an idea that got pitched in the writer's room, and it caught fire, and they thought it could be a fun way to shake things up. Brian stayed dead for exactly 2 episodes. In Season 12, Episode 8, Christmas Guy, Stewie encountered a time-travelling version of himself from an earlier point in the timeline. He stole the return pad, went back to the moment before the car hit Brian, and pushed him out of the way. Brian lived. The timeline reset. MacFarlane tweeted afterward, "You did not really think we would kill off Brian, did you? Jesus, we would have to be high." The entire arc, the death, the grief, the replacement dog, the resurrection, lasted 3 episodes, but what it revealed lasted much longer. The audience's rage proved that Brian mattered, that despite everything the show had spent years documenting about his hypocrisy, his alcoholism, his failed relationships, his pretension, people still loved him. And the show had been systematically proving he did not deserve that love for nearly a decade. The gap between those two things, that the audience loved a character the show had been methodically destroying, is the most honest thing Family Guy has ever said about how we watch television. We do not love characters because they're good. We love them because they are ours, and we will fight to keep them even after we have been shown exactly what they are. Brian Griffin is the show's thesis on intellectual performance. He represents every person who mistakes having the right opinions for being a good person. The show built him as the moral centre, spent 10 years proving the centre was hollow, killed him to see if anyone cared, found out that everyone cared, and then brought him back because the answer was yes. And the cruelest thing Family Guy ever did to Brian was not killing him. It was proving that even after everything the show had exposed about him, the audience still wanted him back. They wanted the performance to continue. And the show, being Family Guy, obliged. If you are enjoying this analysis, subscribing helps the channel tremendously. Now let us move on. There is one character in the Griffin family's orbit who saw through Brian's performance years before the audience did. One character the show has spent the better part of 2 decades treating as a joke. One character whose darkness the show hides behind a single word, giggity, because Glenn Quagmire is not simply the neighbourhood pervert. He is the most terrifying person in Quahog. And the show knows it. The surface version of Quagmire is simple. He is the sex-obsessed neighbour. He lives next door to the Griffins. His catchphrase is giggity. He has been with an enormous number of women, and the show treats this as his defining characteristic, the thing that makes him funny, the thing that makes him Quagmire. Every time he appears on screen, the audience expects a sexual joke. The show delivers it. Everyone laughs, the episode continues. But if you pull back from the catchphrase and look at what the show actually documents about Glenn Quagmire across the entire series, what you find is not a comedy character. What you find is a catalogue. The show has depicted Quagmire engaging in behaviour that, stripped of cartoon logic and listed in plain language, constitutes a long and specific list of serious crimes. He has hidden in ceilings to watch women use the bathroom. He has drugged women. He has used deception to gain access to women who would not have consented if they had known the truth. He knowingly transmits sexually transmitted diseases. He lies about protection. The show does not hide any of this. It presents it openly, in episode after episode, season after season. The difference between what Quagmire does and what a real person who did these things would be called is the difference between animation and reality. In a cartoon, it is a gag. In a police report, it has a different name. The show is aware of this. It has to be, because the same character it built as a predatory joke machine is also the character it chose for some of its most emotionally genuine moments. and the contradiction between those two quagmires is something the show has never resolved and has never tried to resolve. In Season 10, Episode 3, an episode called Screams of Silence, the story of Brenda Q, the show does something it almost never does. It drops the comedy entirely. Quagmire's sister Brenda, voiced by Caitlin Olsen, arrives in Quahog with her boyfriend Jeff. Jeff is abusive, not in the vague, implied way that television sometimes depicts abuse. Jeff hits Brenda on screen. He controls her, he threatens her, he isolates her from her brother. The episode, written by Alex Sulkin, portrays domestic violence with a seriousness that generated significant controversy when it aired on October 30th, 2011. Critics debated whether Family Guy had any business tackling the subject. The show went ahead anyway. Quagmire's response to Jeff's abuse of his sister is genuine and unfiltered. He is furious, he is protective. He tells Brenda, in a scene the show plays completely straight, that women are strong, vibrant, and beautiful creatures. He begs her to leave Jeff. He orchestrates an intervention. When the intervention fails, and Brenda announces she is pregnant and engaged to Jeff, Quagmire decides to kill him. He does it. He, Peter, and Joe lure Jeff into the woods under the pretense of a hunting trip. The plan goes wrong. Jeff anticipates the trap. He takes Quagmire hostage. He beats him. He strangles him. Quagmire survives the strangling, and the reason the show gives for his survival is one of the darkest jokes it has ever told. Quagmire says, "I strangle myself every day." The autoerotic asphyxiation that opened the episode as a gag becomes the thing that saves his life. He gets to the car. He starts the engine. He runs Jeff over, crushing him against a tree. Jeff dies. The next morning, Quagmire, Peter, and Joe present Brenda with a forged note claiming Jeff decided to leave her. She never learns what happened. She cries over the loss of the man who beat her, holding a note written by the brother who killed him. The show asks you to root for Quagmire in this episode. It asks you to see his rage as righteous, his protectiveness as admirable, his willingness to commit murder as an act of love. And within the four walls of this specific episode, it works. Quagmire saving his sister from an abuser is one of the most emotionally effective things Family Guy has ever produced. But the man who saved his sister is the same man the show has spent its entire run presenting as a predator. The show never reconciles these two versions of Quagmire. It does not try. It places the protective brother right next to the predatory neighbour and lets both exist simultaneously without resolution. Quagmire can deliver the speech that dismantles Brian. He can kill a man to protect his sister. He can display genuine emotion and genuine moral clarity in moments the show chooses to take seriously. And he can also be the person whose behaviour, listed plainly, would put him on a registry. The show holds both of these things at the same time and moves on. There is also the matter of Quagmire's family. His father, Dan Quagmire, transitions in Season 8, Episode 18, titled Quagmire's Dad. The episode handles the subject with characteristic bluntness. Quagmire's discomfort is the subject of the episode. His attempt to process his father's transition is messy and imperfect and played for both comedy and genuine emotion. In a later episode, Season 13's Quagmire's mom, Brian of all people, tells Quagmire that he is a grown man who should own up to his behaviour instead of using his mother as a scapegoat. The show gives this line to Brian, whose own hypocrisy has been documented across 9 seasons at that point, because Family Guy trusts that the irony speaks for itself. Quagmire is the character where Family Guy's relationship with its own darkness is most visible. The show made a predator. It gave him a catchphrase. It treated his crimes as comedy for 2 decades. And then, in one episode, it dropped all the comedy and showed you what it looks like when someone like Quagmire encounters someone worse than himself. It did not redeem him. It did not suggest that killing Jeff undid anything Quagmire had done before or would do after. It simply revealed that even the show's worst character has a line, a place where the jokes stop and something real and raw and uncomfortable takes their place. And then the next week, the show went back to giggity, because Family Guy always goes back. The reset is the point. The darkness is real, but the reset is relentless, and neither one cancels out the other. They just coexist, episode after episode, season after season, in a show that has never once pretended to be consistent about anything except the fact that it will always, eventually, return to being a comedy. Even when it has just shown you something that is not funny at all, which brings the story to a relationship that exists entirely outside the comedy. The one thing in Family Guy that the show has protected across its entire run. The friendship between a dog and a baby, between Brian and Stewie. Because what that friendship actually is, what it represents inside the architecture of the show, is something Family Guy has been building since the first season and has never fully said out loud. In the 17th episode of Family Guy's 8th season, an episode called Brian and Stewie, the show locks its two most interesting characters in a bank vault overnight and forces them to talk to each other. There are no cutaway gags, there are no other characters, there is no B-plot about Peter doing something stupid, or Meg being ignored, or Chris being invisible. For the first and one of the only times in the show's history, Family Guy strips away every tool it normally uses to avoid sincerity and leaves two characters alone in a room with nothing to do but be honest. The episode is uncomfortable. It is supposed to be. Brian and Stewie are trapped. They have no escape route. They cannot change the subject by cutting to a joke about the 80s, or a parody of a movie, or a musical number that interrupts the emotion before it gets too real. They are stuck, and what comes out in the hours they spend in that vault is the only sustained piece of genuine emotional writing the show has ever allowed to exist uninterrupted. Brian keeps a gun in his safety deposit box, not for protection, not as a collector's item. He keeps it because he thinks about killing himself. He has thought about it for a long time. He has never told anyone. The gun is his exit strategy, kept behind a locked door in a bank that he visits periodically. Not to use it, but to know it is there. The knowledge that the option exists is what keeps him going. Not hope, not love, not the family. The awareness that if things get bad enough, the gun is waiting. He tells Stewie this. A baby. He tells a baby that he keeps a gun because he thinks about dying. And Stewie does not joke about it. He does not deflect. He does not put his British accent on and deliver a quip that turns the moment into a punchline. He listens. And then he tells Brian that Brian is his only real friend. That in a house full of people, in a life full of adventures and time travel and world domination schemes and everything else the show has given Stewie across 8 seasons, Brian is the one person Stewie considers real, the one person he does not perform for, the one person who gets to see whatever version of Stewie exists underneath the armour. The show plays this straight. It does not undercut it. It does not walk it back in the next episode. It holds the moment and trusts it to land. That episode aired in 2010. 8 years before Send In Stewie, Please would reveal that Stewie's entire persona is a fabrication. But the information was already there. In the bank vault, Stewie was already being more honest with Brian than he was with anyone else. The accent stayed on, the performance continued, but the content of what he said, the vulnerability underneath it, was real. Brian is the one person who gets to see through the mask. And Brian, for all his flaws and all his fraud, and all the things Quagmire correctly identified about him, is also the one person who treats what he sees with genuine care. This is why the Brian and Stewie relationship is the emotional core of Family Guy. Not because it is the most dramatic relationship, not because it produces the biggest moments or the most important plot points, because it is the most consistently sincere thing in a show that destroys sincerity everywhere else it appears. Look at the Road to episodes. They are a recurring format that spans the show from beginning to present. Brian and Stewie go on an adventure together. They travel through time. They visit alternate dimensions. They go to the North Pole. They stumble into danger and argue their way out of it and save each other and come home. These episodes consistently produce the show's highest rated and most positively reviewed content. They are the episodes fans remember. They are the episodes critics point to when they want to argue that Family Guy is capable of more than it usually delivers. And the reason they work is not the adventures. It is the two people having the adventures together. Brian and Stewie trust each other in a way that no other combination of characters in the show achieves. Not Peter and Lois, not Peter and the guys at the Drunken Clam, not Meg and anyone, because Meg exists in a state of perpetual isolation that the show has engineered and maintained for decades. Brian and Stewie have something the rest of the cast does not, a relationship that the show refuses to break. In Road to Germany, from season 7, Mort Goldman accidentally uses Stewie's time machine and ends up in 1939 Poland on the eve of the Nazi invasion. Brian and Stewie go back to rescue him. The episode is a comedy. It contains jokes about World War II. It contains slapstick and absurdity and all the things the show normally deploys. But underneath the jokes, the episode is about Brian and Stewie choosing to walk into danger together. Not because anyone asked them to, not because the plot required it, because Stewie's machine caused the problem and Brian was not going to let him fix it alone. The dynamic is always the same. One of them gets into something, the other one follows. Neither of them questions whether following is the right decision. It simply is. In Road to the North Pole from season 9, Brian and Stewie travel to the North Pole to confront Santa Claus. They arrive expecting a villain and find a broken man. Santa is overworked, underfunded, sickly, and collapsing under the weight of global demand. The episode shifts from comedy to something closer to melancholy as Brian and Stewie try to do Santa's job themselves and fail spectacularly. They cannot deliver the presents. They cannot fix the system. They are two small beings confronting a problem that is bigger than both of them and discovering that effort alone does not solve everything. That is the emotional register the Road to episodes operate in. Not triumph, not defeat, something in between. Two characters who care about each other enough to try, who fail more often than they succeed, and who keep trying anyway because the trying is the relationship. The adventures give them a reason to be together. The being together is the point. The show has produced more than a dozen Road to episodes across its run. Every single one of them is built on the same foundation. Brian and Stewie, alone together, facing something bigger than either of them, choosing each other over the easier option of staying home. The fact that the show keeps returning to this format tells you what it values. Not the family dinners, not the drunken clam conversations, not the Peter and Lois dynamic or the Meg abuse cycle or any of the things the show spends most of its time on. The thing Family Guy returns to most faithfully, the format it trusts most completely, is two characters in a situation that requires them to be honest with each other. And those two characters are always Brian and Stewie. When Brian dies in season 12, Stewie is the character most devastated by the loss. He rejects Vinny, the replacement dog. He cries, he schemes, he cannot let it go. And when the time travel opportunity appears, when a past version of Stewie shows up at a Christmas carnival with a working return pad, present Stewie does not hesitate. He steals the pad, he goes back, he pushes Brian out of the way of the car, he saves him. The entire dramatic arc of the show, built around Brian's death, the most significant plot event in 12 seasons of Family Guy, is resolved by Stewie's refusal to accept a world without Brian in it. The show built this. It did it deliberately, across hundreds of episodes and dozens of adventures and countless moments of quiet honesty hidden inside a show that usually cannot go 30 seconds without a joke. Family Guy constructed a friendship between a dog and a baby that functions as the one thing in the series that is never played for laughs. The show destroys everything else. It undermines sincerity. It undercuts emotion. It turns trauma into punchlines and resets damage before it can accumulate. But it does not do this to Brian and Stewie. It protects them. It gives them the bottle episodes and the road trips and the moments of honest conversation that every other character in the show is denied. Brian and Stewie are the proof that underneath all the cruelty and absurdity and deliberate offensiveness, Family Guy knows what matters. It just cannot bring itself to say so directly. So it says it through the two characters who should, on paper, be the least likely pair in the house. A pretentious alcoholic dog and a baby in a costume. And somehow across the show's full run, that pairing became the most honest relationship in the history of the series. The night Stewie killed Dr. Pritchfield, the night he let the only person who had ever seen through him die on the floor of a therapist's office. The person he went to was Brian, not Lois, not Peter, not anyone whose job it is, theoretically, to take care of a child. He went to the dog. He asked the dog to sleep in his room. He told the dog he had done something awful, and the dog came. No questions, no conditions, he just came. That is the sixth secret. Not that Brian and Stewie are friends, everyone who watches the show knows that. The secret is that their friendship is the emotional architecture of the entire series. It is the load-bearing wall. Everything else in Family Guy can be demolished and rebuilt. The Meg jokes can escalate and retreat. Peter can destroy and reset. Quagmire can be a predator one week and a hero the next. But Brian and Stewie have to work. If their relationship breaks, the show has nothing underneath it. And across every season, every year, every format change and controversy and near cancellation, the show has never let it break, not even when it killed one of them. It brought him back rather than let the friendship end. That is how much it matters. That is how seriously the show takes the one thing it will never joke about. Before we move on, if you're enjoying this, subscribing is free, and it helps make videos like this possible. Which brings us to the character the show has spent the least time examining and the most time damaging. Not Meg, whose abuse is at least acknowledged as a running theme. Not Chris, whose invisibility we will get to later. The character the show quietly built a case against across its entire run while pretending she was the reasonable one the whole time. Because Lois Griffin is not the long-suffering wife the early seasons presented her as. She is something far more complicated, far more complicit, and far darker than the show's surface has ever been willing to fully acknowledge. And the evidence has been sitting in every episode she has ever appeared in. Lois Griffin is positioned as the family's voice of reason. That is her role in the original architecture of the show. Peter is the fool, Brian is the intellectual, Stewie is the villain, Meg is the outcast, Chris is the background, and Lois is the one who holds it all together. She rolls her eyes at Peter, she worries about the kids, she cleans up the messes. She is the audience's proxy, the normal person in a house full of extremes. The one the viewer is supposed to identify with because she reacts to the chaos the way a real person would react to the chaos. That reading breaks down almost immediately if you start watching what Lois actually does rather than what she says. Lois enables Peter. This is not subtext, it is the primary function of her character from the pilot onward. Peter does something destructive, dangerous, or cruel. Lois objects, Peter does it anyway. The consequences land on someone else, usually Meg, sometimes the entire family, occasionally the entire town. And Lois stays. She does not leave. She does not intervene in any meaningful way. She does not protect her children from a man the show has documented as physically dangerous to them. She objects verbally. The show registers her objection, and then the episode continues as if the objection was the same thing as action. It is not. The show knows it is not. And Lois's continued presence in the household, her continued participation in the structure that allows Peter to operate the way he operates, is the most significant piece of evidence the show has ever assembled about who Lois actually is. She enables Meg's abuse specifically. This is documented across dozens of episodes. Lois does not defend Meg from Peter's cruelty. She participates in it. She makes comments about Meg's appearance. She undermines Meg's confidence about her social life. She competes with Meg for male attention in at least one episode, and the show does not present this as an aberration. It presents it as a window into something that has always been there. Lois does not see Meg as an equal. She does not see Meg as a person whose suffering requires intervention. She sees Meg as the daughter who is supposed to be fine, because Lois has decided that Meg is the one who can handle it. And Meg, as we have already established, proved Lois right in Seahorse Seashell Party. She can handle it, but the fact that she can is not the same thing as the fact that she should have to. Lois comes from wealth, the Pewterschmidt family. Her father, Carter, is a billionaire. She grew up in privilege, in comfort, in an environment where every resource was available to her. She chose Peter. The show frames this as romantic, as a woman who chose love over money, who followed her heart instead of her family's expectations. And that reading is available on the surface, but underneath it is something else. Lois chose the least threatening partner available. She chose a man who would never challenge her intellectually, never match her in arguments, never force her to confront anything about herself that she did not want to confront. She chose a man she could manage. And management is not the same thing as love, it is control with a softer name. The show demonstrates this across seasons. When Beth in Rick and Morty chose Jerry for similar reasons, the reference script in our outline called it out directly. Beth married someone she would never have to worry about losing, because losing people is the wound she has been living inside since childhood. Lois operates on the same logic. Peter will not leave. Peter cannot leave. He has nowhere to go and no capacity to build a life without her. Lois's relationship with Peter is not a partnership between equals. It is an arrangement where one person holds all the structural power and the other person provides all the chaos. And the person holding the power has decided that the chaos is preferable to being alone. The show gives Lois moments of genuine darkness that are easy to miss because they happen inside episodes that are structured as comedies. She has competed with Meg for the attention of men. She has displayed violent tendencies that the show plays for laughs, but documents with consistency. She has looked the other way at Peter's treatment of their children in situations where any reasonable parent would intervene. The show does not call her a villain. It does not need to. It just keeps placing her next to Peter's worst moments and letting you notice who is standing beside him, doing nothing. In Season 6, the show produced a 2-part episode in which Stewie successfully simulates killing Lois and taking over the world. The simulation is eventually revealed as exactly that, a simulation, but before the reveal, the show lets you watch a version of the Griffin household without Lois in it. And what you see is not a family falling apart from the loss of its reasonable centre. What you see is a family that continues to dysfunction in exactly the same ways it always has. Lois's absence does not fix the family. Her presence does not fix the family either. The show proved, in a single 2-part episode, that the thing Lois believes she provides, stability, normalcy, a counterbalance to Peter's chaos, is not actually what she provides. What she provides is the appearance of stability, the performance of someone managing a situation that no one in the house is actually managing. That is the 7th secret. Lois Griffin is not the victim of her husband's behaviour. She is the co-author of it. She chose the arrangement. She maintains it. She participates in the cruelty when it suits her and performs disapproval when it does not. She is not the reasonable one. She is the one who decided that this version of unreasonable is the one she can live with. And every scene where she rolls her eyes at Peter, every moment where she says his name in that exasperated way that signals to the audience that she knows better, is the show's most sustained and most subtle lie. She does not know better. She knows exactly as much as everyone else in the house. She has simply made a different choice about what to do with that knowledge, and her choice every single time is to stay, to enable, to let the structure continue, because the structure as broken as it is, gives her the one thing she has always needed more than love, or safety, or a healthy environment for her children. It gives her someone who will never leave. The show has given Lois more than 2 decades to walk out the door. It has given her reasons. It has shown her the damage. It has put the consequences in front of her face, in episode after episode, and watched her choose to stay every single time. And the audience watches her make that choice and calls her the reasonable one. The audience has been making the same mistake Lois makes, confusing presence with goodness, confusing staying with caring, confusing the person who stands next to the fire with the person who is trying to put it out. Lois is not trying to put the fire out. She is warming her hands, which brings us to the person in the house who has been overlooked the longest. The person the audience and the show and the family itself have spent the entire series treating as furniture. Because what the show has done to Chris Griffin, and what Chris's absence from the conversation tells you about how the Griffin family actually works, is a secret hiding in the most obvious place in the entire series. Chris Griffin is the oldest son in the Griffin household. He's been on screen since the pilot episode in 1999. He has appeared in over 450 episodes of the series. He is voiced by Seth Green, one of the most recognizable voice actors in animation. He is, by any structural definition, a main character. And yet if you asked someone who watches Family Guy to describe Chris Griffin in detail, to explain what drives him, what his arc has been across the show's full run, what the show has been saying about him from the beginning, most people would struggle to answer. Not because they do not watch the show, because Chris does not give them much to work with. This is not an accident. This is the point. Chris exists in a family of extremes. Peter is the most destructive. Lois is the most complicit. Meg is the most abused. Stewie is the most brilliant. Brian is the most performative. Every other member of the Griffin household occupies a clear position in the family's power structure. They have defined roles, they have recurring dynamics with each other that the show has developed and refined across decades. They are, for better or worse, known. Chris is not known. Chris is present. He is in the room. He speaks. He has storylines when the show decides to give him one. But between those storylines, he exists in a state that is best described as ambient. He is the family member who is there but not there. The one who fills a seat at the dinner table without commanding any of the attention that the other seats demand. The show has never committed to a sustained character arc for Chris the way it has for every other member of the family. He gets episodes, he does not get a trajectory. What the show has given Chris, scattered across the series in moments that never accumulate into anything lasting, are hints. He has artistic talent that surfaces in a few episodes and then disappears. He has had relationships, including a notable storyline where he dated a girl whose family had money and the Griffins tried to impress them. He has moments of surprising insight that the show drops into scenes without comment and never follows up on. He is, underneath the surface, a person with potential that the show has no interest in developing, because developing Chris would require the show to make room for him. And the Griffin household, as we have already established, is organised around Peter's needs, maintained by Lois's enabling, and balanced on Meg's willingness to absorb the dysfunction. There is no structural role for a quiet, ordinary son, so Chris does not get one. There is one recurring element of Chris's storyline that deserves specific attention because of how the show handles it. Herbert, the elderly neighbour, has displayed persistent sexual interest in Chris since the earliest seasons of the show. The show has played this consistently as a joke. Herbert's attraction to Chris is a punchline that gets deployed regularly, with Herbert making comments, attempting to get Chris alone, and displaying behaviour that the show frames as creepy but ultimately harmless because it is animated and because Herbert is depicted as physically frail and therefore incapable of acting on his intentions. In Season 6, Chris asks Herbert directly, "Are you a pedophile?" The show lets this question land. Herbert does not answer clearly. The moment passes. The show moves on. It is played for awkward comedy, the kind of joke Family Guy specializes in, where the audience laughs because the alternative is sitting with how uncomfortable the question actually is, but the question was asked. The show put it in Chris's mouth. It gave the overlooked son the one moment of genuine confrontation that his character has ever been given. Directed at a person the show has been using as a joke at Chris's expense for 6 seasons. And then the show took the moment back, filed it away, and returned Herbert to his usual role as a punchline. Chris Griffin is the proof that in the Griffin family, being unremarkable is the worst thing you can be. Meg is abused, but she is seen. Peter is destructive, but he is the centre of attention. Stewie is lonely, but he is brilliant. Brian is a fraud, but he is charming enough that people want him around anyway. Chris is none of these things. He is not talented enough to demand attention, not broken enough to attract it, not loud enough to command it. He is the family member who gets exactly what the family has left over after everyone else has taken their share. And in the Griffin household, what is left over is nothing. The show documents this without ever naming it. Chris's storylines are interruptions. They appear, they resolve, and they leave no trace on the episodes that follow. He does not accumulate experience the way the other characters do. He does not grow. He does not change. He exists in the show the way a piece of furniture exists in a room, present, functional, and fundamentally unchanged by anything that happens around it. And that is the 8th secret. Chris is not a failed character. He is a perfectly accurate depiction of what happens to the person in a family who is not extreme enough to claim space. In a house where being the scapegoat at least means being noticed, where being destructive at least means being feared, where being brilliant or fraudulent or predatory at least means being the subject of a conversation, Chris is the person who gets none of it. He is the one the family does not need to scapegoat because they do not think about him enough to bother. He is not the black sheep. He is the sheep nobody counted. There is a detail about Chris that the show drops occasionally and never develops. He is Peter's son. He shares Peter's physical build, Peter's limited intellectual capacity in some depictions, Peter's tendency toward impulsive behaviour. The show has hinted across multiple episodes that Chris may be heading down the same path as his father. Not because Chris is doomed by genetics, but because he's growing up in a household where Peter's behaviour is the dominant model of how a man acts. Chris watches Peter every day. He watches Peter abuse Meg and face no consequences. He watches Peter destroy things and get forgiven. He watches Peter take up all the space in every room and receive attention, affection, and accommodation in return. And the show, by refusing to develop Chris, by keeping him in the background, by never committing to a storyline that would force him to confront who he is becoming, is letting the process happen unchecked. Chris is not just invisible, he is forming in the dark, and nobody in the house is paying enough attention to notice what shape he is taking. That is worse than abuse. Abuse at least confirms that you exist. Chris floats through the Griffin household like a ghost in his own family, and the show, by refusing to develop him, by refusing to give him the sustained attention it gives everyone else, is doing to Chris exactly what the family does to Chris. The show is the family, and Chris is the member neither of them has ever needed enough to hurt. If you are enjoying this, subscribing helps the channel tremendously. Now, there is one more secret before the last one, and it is not about a person, it is about the place, the town these people live in, the world the show has built around them. Because Quahog, Rhode Island is not a setting, it is a condition, and what the show has been doing with it since 1999 is the most structurally disturbing thing Family Guy has ever done. Not because of what happens in Quahog, because of what cannot happen, because nothing in Quahog is allowed to change. And the characters who live there are trapped inside a reality that resets their worst experiences every single week. Family Guy uses what animators and television writers call a floating timeline. The characters do not age. Stewie has been a baby since the Clinton administration. Meg has been a teenager for a quarter of a century. Peter has not gotten older. Lois has not changed. The kids have not grown up. Time passes within episodes but does not accumulate across them. An episode can reference a holiday, or a current event, or a specific year, but the characters themselves remain fixed in the same positions they occupied in 1999. This is standard for animated sitcoms. The Simpsons does it. Bob's Burgers does it. American Dad does it. It is a format convention that allows shows to run indefinitely without dealing with the complications of aging characters and evolving family structures. And for most of these shows, it is invisible. The audience accepts it without thinking about it because the convention is so familiar that it does not register as a choice. It registers as the way things work. But Family Guy is not like most of these shows. Family Guy is a show that documents genuine trauma. It shows characters experiencing pain that is depicted with real emotional weight. Brian dies and the family grieves. Stewie breaks down in therapy. Meg absorbs years of abuse and eventually understands the mechanics of her own suffering. Peter kills his father. Quagmire murders a man. Lois watches her family fall apart. These are not abstract events. The show gives them weight. It gives them consequences. It lets the characters feel things. And then it resets everything. The following week, the trauma does not exist. The grief is gone. The self-knowledge is erased. The dead come back, or the living forget, or the episode simply ignores everything that happened before it. The show gives its characters genuine experiences and then takes them away. It lets Meg understand her own abuse and then puts her back in the role of the scapegoat, as if the understanding never happened. It lets Brian die and then undoes his death as if the grief was a test that the audience failed by caring too much. It lets Stewie reveal his deepest secret to a therapist and then never references the therapy again. Every moment of growth, every moment of genuine change, every moment where a character evolves beyond the position the show assigned them is temporary. The reset is always coming. The status quo is always restored. Think about what this means for the characters if you take them seriously for even a moment. Think about what it would feel like to live in Quahog, to experience your father pouring hot grease on your mother, and then see your mother fine the next week with no scars and no memory of what happened. To bury your best friend and then see him alive 3 episodes later as if the funeral never occurred. To look at your own abuse clearly enough to articulate its structural function in your family and then watch yourself go back to absorbing it with no lasting awareness that you ever understood what was being done to you. To die and come back. To learn and forget. To grow and shrink back to your original size. Quahog is not a town. It is a loop. A perpetual cycle of damage and repair that never advances, never resolves, and never allows the people inside it to accumulate the consequences of their experiences into anything permanent. The show has been running this loop since its premiere. The characters have been living inside it just as long. And the loop is the cruelest thing the show has ever designed. Not any individual joke, not any single episode, the structure itself. The architecture of a world where nothing you experience is allowed to matter past the end credits. The show occasionally acknowledges the loop. Family Guy has broken the fourth wall enough times, through Stewie addressing the camera, through meta-jokes about the show's own format, through episodes that directly reference the audience and the structure of the series, that it is impossible to argue the creators are unaware of what they have built. They know the reset exists, they use it, they play with it, and occasionally, in moments that read as either brilliance or cruelty, depending on how seriously you take the characters, they let the characters themselves seem to notice. There are permanent changes in the show's history. Cleveland Brown left for his own spin-off and came back after it was cancelled. The voice actress for Meg changed. Certain characters have died and stayed dead, like Diane Simmons in the Season 9 murder mystery episode. and then there were fewer, or Muriel Goldman. These permanent changes are rare enough that they stand out against the ocean of resets. They are exceptions that prove the rule. The rule is that nothing changes. The exceptions are the show admitting that it could change things and choosing, almost always, not to. The show itself died and came back. Family Guy was cancelled after season 3. It was gone. The network had decided it was over. And then DVD sales and Adult Swim reruns created a second audience, a resurrection audience, and Fox brought the show back. Family Guy experienced the same thing it does to its characters. It was killed and reset. It died and came back. The show and its characters have that in common now. Neither of them is allowed to end. There is a connection between this structure and the way the video you are watching right now functions. This is a sleep video. It is designed to be something you drift in and out of, something you can leave and come back to, something that does not require constant attention because the stakes are never permanent and the information is never lost. You can close your eyes during the Brian section and open them during the Quagmire section, and nothing is broken. The experience is designed to flow. Family Guy works the same way. The lack of permanent stakes, the floating timeline, the eternal reset, all of it creates a show that you can watch in any order, enter at any point, leave and return to without penalty. You can watch season 20 before season 5, and the experience is fundamentally the same. The characters are in the same positions. The dynamics are unchanged, the town is intact. Nothing you missed matters, because nothing that happened lasted. That is the 9th secret. Quahog is not a setting. It is a prison designed as a sitcom. The characters inside it experience every possible human tragedy, death, abuse, betrayal, loss, grief, murder, self-destruction, and then wake up the next Sunday at 9 as if none of it happened. The show's greatest cruelty is not any individual joke, it is the structure itself. A world where nothing you experience is allowed to matter permanently, where growth is given and taken back, where the worst day of your life will be forgotten by the next episode, where the best day of your life will be forgotten too. The characters live in this. They have lived in it since the pilot aired, and the audience watches it happen. We watch them experience things that would destroy real people, and then we watch them get up the next week as if nothing happened, and we accept it because we are used to it. Because it is a cartoon. Because it is a comedy. Because Family Guy does not do permanent, but it does permanent. It just does it to the audience instead of the characters. Every secret in this video is something the show placed in front of you and never took back. The information accumulates even when the characters do not carry it forward. You know Meg is a scapegoat, even when the show pretends you do not. You know Stewie's accent is fake, even when the show puts it back on. You know Brian is a fraud, even when the show lets him keep performing. The characters reset, the audience does not. And that asymmetry, the fact that we carry what they cannot, is the thing the show has been counting on since 1999. Which brings the story to the final secret. The biggest one, the one that connects every section of this video back to a single question the show has been asking since the pilot. A question about what a comedy is actually for, about what it means to laugh at people who are suffering, about whether the show that built its empire on cruelty has been trying to tell us something about ourselves the entire time, and whether we have been listening. But before we get to the answer, we need to understand the tool the show uses to keep you from asking the question in the first place, because there is a mechanism inside Family Guy that the show uses more than any other tool in its arsenal. More than the slapstick, more than the musical numbers, more than Peter falling down, or the chicken fights, or any of the recurring gags that people associate with the series. It is the cutaway gag, the non sequitur. The moment where a character says something and the show cuts to a completely unrelated scene, plays it for a few seconds, and then cuts back to the main story as if nothing happened. The cutaway gag is the thing most people think of when they think of Family Guy. It is the show's signature. It is what separates it from The Simpsons and Bob's Burgers and every other animated sitcom on television. Peter says, "Remember the time I did a thing?" And the show cuts to Peter doing the thing, and then it cuts back. The joke is self-contained. It has nothing to do with the plot. It exists entirely for the purpose of being funny in isolation, disconnected from everything around it. This is what the cutaway gag looks like if you take it at face value. It is a comedy tool, a delivery mechanism for jokes that do not need context or setup or payoff. It is efficient. It is endlessly flexible. It allows the show to make any joke about any subject at any time, without having to justify it through the story. But that is not all the cutaway gag does. The cutaway gag is also an interruption. Every time the show cuts away from the main scene, it stops whatever was happening in that scene. It halts the emotional momentum. It breaks the connection between the viewer and the characters. It takes you out of the story and deposits you somewhere else entirely for a few seconds and then brings you back. And by the time you're back, the thing that was building in the scene before the cutaway is gone. The energy has dissipated. The moment has passed. The show uses this constantly, and it uses it most aggressively in the moments when the main story is getting closest to something real. Watch for it. Across the entire run of the series, the cutaway gags cluster around moments of genuine emotion. Peter says something that approaches sincerity, and the show cuts away. Lois begins to address the dysfunction in the household, and the show cuts away. A character starts to process something painful, and the show cuts to a joke about a celebrity, or a movie, or a historical event. And by the time it cuts back, the pain is gone. The moment is over. The character has moved on. The audience has been given permission to move on too. This is not accidental. A show that has been on the air for over 2 decades does not accidentally develop a pattern this consistent. The cutaway gag is Family Guy's primary evasion tool. It is the thing the show uses to pull itself back from the edge every time it gets too close to something it does not want to fully confront. It is the hand that covers the mirror right before you see your own face clearly. It is the laugh track that starts playing right before the silence gets uncomfortable. It is the mechanism that allows the show to be 2 things at once, a comedy and a document of genuine human pain, without ever being forced to choose between them. The episodes we have already discussed in this video are notable specifically because they do not use this mechanism. Send in Stewie, please has no cutaway gags. The Bank Vault episode, Brian and Stewie, has no cutaway gags. Screams of Silence uses them sparingly, and the ones it does use do not function as evasions from the central domestic violence storyline. These episodes feel different from normal Family Guy episodes because they are different. They are the show without its armour, Stewie without his accent, Brian without his martini, the show without its cutaways, and they are the show's best episodes. Critics consistently rate them higher than the standard format episodes. The audience remembers them more clearly. They produce the moments that people discuss years later, the moments that show up in video essays and analysis pieces and late-night conversations about what the show actually is underneath the comedy. The cutaway-free episodes are the episodes where Family Guy reveals itself, where it stops evading and starts confronting. And the fact that these episodes are exceptions rather than the rule tells you everything you need to know about the show's relationship with its own depth. It knows it has depth. It chooses, almost always, to hide it behind a joke about a thing Peter did in 1987. There is also the matter of the show's darkest standalone episodes, the ones that are not about the characters we have been discussing, but that tell you something about the show's willingness to go to places other animated comedies would never go. In season 11, the Griffin family goes on an expedition to Mount Everest, and the situation deteriorates so badly that they resort to cannibalism to survive. The show plays this as comedy. A family eating human flesh on a mountain is presented as another Peter misadventure, another situation his poor decisions created, another thing the family has to survive because the man at the centre of it cannot be trusted to plan a vacation. But the show goes further than the premise requires. It holds on the details. It shows you what it looks like. It commits to the bit long enough that the laughter starts to curdle. And what is left underneath is the image of a family that has been pushed to the absolute limit of what a sitcom can contain and has come out the other side with the same dynamic it went in with. Peter caused it, Lois tolerated it, the kids survived it, and the next week they were back at the dinner table as if nothing happened. In season 9, the show produced And Then There Were Fewer, a murder mystery episode where Diane Simmons, the longtime news anchor and a recurring character, across 9 seasons murders several people and is herself killed at the end. The deaths in this episode are permanent. The characters who die stay dead. It is one of the only episodes in the show's entire run where the reset does not apply. People die and the show carries their absence forward into subsequent episodes. This episode proved the show was capable of permanent consequences. It was capable of letting its choices matter. And the fact that it almost never does, the fact that it reserves permanence for a handful of moments across 450 episodes while resetting everything else, is a choice, not a limitation. The show can do permanent. It chooses not to. In season 13, Stewie impregnates himself with Brian's DNA. The premise sounds like a joke, and it is presented as one, but the episode explores what happens when 2 characters, who represent different forms of brokenness, attempt to create something together. The pregnancy is biological. It is real within the logic of the show. A baby impregnating himself with the genetic material of a dog is absurd in a way that only Family Guy could attempt. But the emotional dynamics underneath the absurdity, the questions about partnership and creation and what it means to make something with someone you love, are real. The show asks those questions inside the most ridiculous possible framing and trusts the audience to hear them. These episodes are not anomalies. They are proof that Family Guy has been building something across its entire run that its surface has never been willing to fully claim. The show tells you it is a comedy. It insists on it. It wraps every serious moment in enough jokes that the seriousness can be denied. But the serious moments keep happening. They keep accumulating. They keep building a picture of a family and a town and a system that is documented with the kind of specificity that only 2 decades of continuous production can achieve. And this is where Seth MacFarlane becomes impossible to separate from the show he created. MacFarlane voices 4 of the show's central characters: Peter Griffin, Stewie Griffin, Brian Griffin, Glenn Quagmire. He also voices dozens of recurring characters. He is the voice of the abusive father. He is the voice of the frightened child hiding behind a fake accent. He is the voice of the intellectual fraud who keeps a gun in a bank vault. He is the voice of the predator whose catchphrase masks a catalogue of crimes. Every dark secret we have discussed in this video is spoken in Seth MacFarlane's voice. He was 24 when he became the show's executive producer. He is now 52. He has been doing these voices for more than half his life. He has been Peter since the pilot. He has been screaming "Shut up, Meg" since the first season. He has been performing Stewie's fake British accent for over 2 decades. He has been Quagmire saying "giggity" for just as long. The man and the characters have been inseparable for so long that the question of whether the show reflects MacFarlane or MacFarlane reflects the show has become unanswerable. They are the same thing now. They have been the same thing for longer than many of the people watching this video have been alive. MacFarlane has spoken about wanting to end the show. He has talked about feeling like Family Guy has run its course. He has pursued other projects. He created The Orville, a science fiction series that is as far from the humour of Family Guy as anything he has produced. He directed feature films. He hosted the Oscars. He has tried, in various ways and at various points over the last decade, to be something other than the man who makes Peter Griffin talk. And the show has continued without his direct involvement in the writing for years. He provides the voices. The writers provide the scripts. The machinery runs. The loop continues, but the voices are still his. Every new episode of Family Guy that airs features Seth MacFarlane sitting in a recording booth, performing the brokenness of characters he created when he was barely an adult, giving voice to a family he built as a joke that became something he cannot walk away from because the audience will not let him. The show died once, they brought it back. MacFarlane has signalled repeatedly that he has said what he wants to say with these characters. The show continues anyway. The network wants more, the audience wants more, the loop holds. There is something in that dynamic between a creator who has moved on and a creation that refuses to end, that mirrors the dynamic inside the show itself. The characters in Family Guy cannot change because the format does not allow it. Seth MacFarlane cannot leave Family Guy because the industry does not allow it. Both the characters and their creator are trapped in a system that is bigger than any individual decision. Both of them keep going because the alternative, the permanent ending, the real reset, the one that does not loop back to the beginning, has never been permitted. MacFarlane nearly died in 2001. He was scheduled to be on American Airlines Flight 11, the first plane to hit the World Trade Center on September 11th. He missed the flight because his travel agent gave him the wrong departure time. He arrived at Logan Airport in Boston late. The plane had already left. The plane hit the North Tower of the World Trade Center. Everyone on board died. Seth MacFarlane, the creator of Family Guy, survived by minutes, by a mistake, by the kind of random, arbitrary, completely meaningless accident that the universe produces without intention or design. He has spoken about this publicly. He has acknowledged how close he came. He has discussed the way it affected his perspective on everything that followed. And the show he went on to make, the show he resumed making after almost dying in the most significant act of violence on American soil in the 21st century, is a show about a family that experiences every form of suffering the writers can imagine, and then resets the next week as if none of it happened. A show where death is temporary, where pain does not accumulate, where the worst things in the world can happen to the people on screen, and the screen just keeps going, keeps playing, keeps producing 22 minutes of content every week, as if the alternative, stopping, confronting what happened, sitting with it, is not available. Seth MacFarlane almost died and then he came back, and he kept making a show about people who almost die and then come back. The loop holds. The show does not discuss this. It does not reference it. It does not use it as a plot point or a thematic anchor. It just keeps going. The way its characters keep going. The way Meg keeps absorbing. The way Stewie keeps pretending. The way Brian keeps performing. The way Peter keeps destroying. The way Quahog keeps resetting. The way the audience keeps watching. That is the thing underneath the thing underneath the thing. Not just what the show does to its characters. Not just what the show does to its audience. But what the show does with the fundamental question of whether it matters. Whether any of it matters. Whether a cartoon that airs on Sunday nights and makes people laugh at a family being destroyed slowly over the course of its run has anything real to say about the experience of being alive. The show has never answered this question. It has been asking it since the pilot. It asks it in every episode. It asks it in every cutaway gag that replaces an emotion with a punchline. It asks it in every reset that erases a consequence. It asks it in every character who suffers, and every character who causes suffering, and every moment where the line between the two is so thin that you cannot see it without stopping the laughter long enough to look. The answer is not in the show. The answer is in you. It has always been in you. The show put it there in 1999, and it has been waiting ever since for you to find it. And the fact that most people never find it, the fact that most people watch 400 episodes and see a fat man and a dog and a baby and a family that makes them laugh, is not a failure of the audience. It is the show working exactly as designed. Family Guy is a comedy. It is also a mirror, and the reflection it shows you is not the griffins. It is the version of yourself that sits in the dark, watches a family suffer, laughs, and comes back next week for more. The show knows. It has always known. And now, after 2 hours, you know too. But knowing requires context, and the context starts with how the show got here in the first place. Because the history of Family Guy itself, the real history, the cancellation, and the revival, and the man who built it and almost did not survive long enough to see it come back, is the final piece of the picture. Family Guy premiered on January 31st, 1999, immediately after the Super Bowl on Fox. It was created by Seth MacFarlane, who was 25 years old at the time. The show was picked up because MacFarlane had made 2 short films, The Life of Larry and Larry and Steve, that featured an earlier version of the Peter and Brian dynamic, a bumbling man and his intellectual dog, and Fox saw something in the concept worth developing. The pilot episode, Death Has a Shadow, introduced the Griffin family in a single 22-minute block, established every character, set the tone, and launched a show that would outlast nearly every other animated series of its generation except one. The show was cancelled after its 3rd season. Fox pulled it in 2002. The ratings had been inconsistent. The network had moved it around the schedule multiple times, from its original Sunday slot to Tuesday nights to Thursday nights, and back again. The audience could not find it because the network could not decide where to put it. 3 seasons of episodes aired irregularly, the audience fragmented, and Fox made the decision that Family Guy was done. It came back. Not because Fox changed its mind, because something happened that nobody predicted. The DVD sales were enormous. Cartoon Network's Adult Swim block began airing reruns, and the ratings were higher than anyone expected. A second audience found the show, an audience that had never watched it on Fox, an audience that discovered it on DVD and late-night cable, and decided that this was the show they wanted. Fox saw the numbers. Fox brought it back. Season 4 premiered in 2005, 3 years after the cancellation, and the show has not stopped since. That history matters because it tells you something about what Family Guy is at the structural level. It is a show that died and came back, a show that the network decided was over and that the audience refused to let end. The characters live in a reset loop where nothing is permanent and everything returns to the way it was. The show itself lived through the same thing. It was cancelled and it was revived, and it has been running ever since, in an unbroken cycle of production that mirrors the unbroken cycle of its own storytelling. Family Guy and the Griffin family have the same relationship to death. It happens. It does not stick. Now, the final secret. We said at the beginning of this video that there is a version of Family Guy underneath the version most people think they are watching. We have spent the last 2 hours walking through what that version looks like. We looked at Meg and found a girl who understood her own abuse so clearly that she chose to continue absorbing it because the alternative was the collapse of her family. We looked at Peter and found a man whose documented cognitive disability was weaponized by the show as a shield for behavior that would be unforgivable in any context that took itself seriously. We looked at Stewie and found a lonely child who built an entire identity out of borrowed accents and theatrical villainy to avoid being seen as what he actually is. We looked at Brian and found the show's most sustained argument about the difference between having the right opinions and being a good person. We looked at Quagmire and found a monster who the show refused to let be only a monster, giving him moments of genuine humanity that exist without cancelling out the darkness on either side of them. We looked at Brian and Stewie together and found the one relationship the show has protected across its entire run, the emotional core it hides inside its least likely pairing. We looked at Lois and found an enabler performing the role of the reasonable one. We looked at Chris and found the person the show forgot on purpose, because forgetting him was more honest than pretending to care. And we looked at Quahog itself and found a prison designed as a sitcom, a reset loop that gives its characters genuine experiences and then takes them back week after week for 25 years. every one of these secrets was presented to you as comedy. Meg's abuse is a running joke. Peter's destruction is slapstick. Stewie's persona is a cartoon villain bit. Brian's pretension is a recurring gag. Quagmire's predatory behaviour is a catchphrase. Lois's enabling is played as the straight man routine. Chris's invisibility is the absence of a joke rather than the presence of one. And Quahog's reset loop is just the format of a sitcom doing what sitcoms do. The audience laughed. The audience has been laughing since 1999. Over 450 episodes across 24 seasons, through a cancellation and a revival and a move to streaming and holiday specials and crossover events and more controversies than any other animated show in history. The audience has been laughing. That is the final secret. It is not about the Griffins. It is about you. Family Guy has spent 25 years testing what you will laugh at. And the answer, documented across every episode, every season, every decade the show has been on the air, is everything. You will laugh at a father abusing his daughter. You will laugh at a predator stalking women. You will laugh at a child's loneliness, dressed up in a British accent. You will laugh at domestic violence and alcoholism and intellectual disability and neglect and manipulation and murder. You will laugh at all of it. Because it is animated. Because it is a comedy. Because the show wraps every piece of genuine human darkness in timing and cutaway gags and musical numbers and absurdist humour and presents it in a format that has trained you, over decades of watching animated sitcoms, to not take anything you see seriously. The show knows this. It has always known this. The cutaway gags are not random. They are a structural tool. They are the thing that interrupts the moment before it gets too real. Before you have a chance to sit with what you just saw, the show cuts to Peter fighting the chicken, or Conway Twitty singing, or a parody of a movie you watched in the 90s. The cutaway is the show's hand on the steering wheel, turning away from the darkness every time the headlights hit it. And you let it. You welcome it. Because the alternative is sitting in the dark and looking at what the headlights just illuminated, and that is not why you turned on the television. Seth MacFarlane voices Peter Griffin. He also voices Stewie Griffin. He also voices Brian Griffin. He also voices Glenn Quagmire. One man provides the voice for the abusive father, the frightened child, the intellectual fraud, and the sexual predator. He is all of them. He built all of them. He gave them all his voice, literally, his physical, vocal cords producing every word that comes out of their mouths. The show is, in its most literal sense, one person performing every kind of brokenness the series has ever depicted. MacFarlane has talked about the characters in interviews across the show's run. He has discussed what they represent. He has acknowledged the darkness. He has also consistently maintained that Family Guy is a comedy, that the characters are comedic, that the show is meant to make people laugh, and that the darkness is in service of the comedy rather than the other way around. And he may be right. He probably is right. The show probably was built primarily to be funny. The secrets we have been discussing for 2 hours were probably not the primary intention of a 24-year-old in 1999 pitching a cartoon to Fox. But intention and outcome are different things. Whatever MacFarlane set out to build in 1999, what he actually built across more than 2 decades of production and 400+ episodes, is a show that documents human dysfunction with a specificity and a consistency that rivals any drama on television. The show just happens to be funny while it does it. The comedy is real. The darkness is also real. And the question the show has been asking, the question it has been placing in front of you every Sunday night for a quarter of a century, is whether the comedy makes the darkness acceptable, whether laughing at suffering is the same thing as accepting it, whether the fact that something is a joke means it does not count. The show does not answer this question. It places it in front of you and leaves it there. It shows you Meg being abused, and it makes you laugh, and it does not tell you whether the laughter was appropriate. It shows you Quagmire's behaviour, and it gives him a catchphrase, and it does not tell you whether the catchphrase excuses anything. It shows you Peter causing destruction that would kill people in a real town, and it plays the tuba sound, and it does not tell you whether the tuba sound means the deaths do not matter. The show deposits the question and walks away. It has been doing this since the pilot aired, and the audience has been sitting with the question just as long without most of them ever noticing it was asked. There is a version of this analysis that says Family Guy is irresponsible, that the show normalizes the things it depicts by making them funny, that laughter is a form of acceptance, and that by laughing at Meg's abuse and Peter's violence and Quagmire's predation, the audience is participating in a system that treats these things as entertainment rather than as problems. This is a real critique. Critics have made it for decades. It is not wrong. There is another version of this analysis that says Family Guy is doing something more interesting than being irresponsible, that the show is testing the audience deliberately, that every dark joke is a small experiment in what people will accept when it is presented in the right format, that the cutaway gags and the slapstick and the musical numbers are not just comedy tools, but evasion tools, designed to keep the audience comfortable enough to keep watching while the show continues to document things that should make them uncomfortable, that the real subject of Family Guy has never been the Griffin family. It has been the audience's willingness to watch the Griffin family without looking away. Both readings are available, both are supported by the evidence. The show has never committed to either one, because committing would break the mechanism. If Family Guy announced that it was testing its audience, the test would stop working. If it announced that the darkness was deliberate and the comedy was a delivery system, the audience would watch differently and the delivery system would fail. The show has to remain what it has always been, a comedy that is also something else, in order for both halves to continue functioning. The evidence for the deliberate reading is in the episodes we have already discussed. Seahorse Seashell Party does not happen by accident. Send in Stewie, please does not happen by accident. The Bank Vault episode does not happen by accident. Screams of Silence does not happen by accident. These are episodes where the show deliberately, consciously, with full awareness of what it was doing, dropped the comedy and showed you the real thing underneath it. It pulled back the curtain, it let you see the mechanism, and then, the following week, it put the curtain back and resumed the show. The existence of those episodes is proof that the show knows what it is building. The fact that it keeps returning to comedy after each one is proof that it considers the comedy essential to the project. Both things are true. The show is funny, and the show is dark, and neither one exists without the other. This is what makes Family Guy different from the show it is most often compared to. The Simpsons documents a family with warmth. It treats Homer's failures as fundamentally lovable. It treats Bart's rebellion as fundamentally innocent. It treats the town of Springfield as a community that functions, messily but genuinely, as a place where people live and care about each other. The Simpsons believes in its characters. Family Guy does not. Family Guy observes its characters the way a scientist observes an experiment. It creates conditions, it documents results, and it does not intervene. It does not save Meg. It does not fix Peter. It does not heal Stewie. It does not redeem Brian. It watches, and it trusts you to watch with it. The show has been criticised for this. It has been called heartless, soulless, mean-spirited, lazy, offensive, for the sake of being offensive. These criticisms are valid in specific instances. Family Guy has produced episodes that are simply cruel, that have no point beyond the cruelty, that use darkness as a substitute for comedy rather than a complement to it. Not every episode is building toward the secrets we have discussed. Some of them are just bad. But across the full body of work, what Family Guy has built is something none of its individual episodes fully represent. It has built a complete and detailed portrait of a dysfunctional family system. It has built it slowly, one episode at a time, one joke at a time, one cutaway at a time. It has built it inside a comedy so that nobody was required to look at it. And the people who did look, the people who paid attention past the jokes and past the gags and past the chicken fights and past the musical numbers, found something underneath all of it that the show never announced and never promoted and never put in a trailer. They found a show about the pain of being the scapegoat, about the pain of being dangerous to the people you love, about the pain of wearing a mask so completely that you forget there is a face underneath it, about the pain of being seen as something you are not, about the pain of being the person everyone overlooks, about the pain of being trapped in a system that resets your suffering every week so that it never accumulates into change. The Griffin family will continue. The show is in its 24th season. It has been renewed. The episodes will air. Peter will do something stupid next week. Meg will absorb it. Stewie will put his accent back on. Brian will pour another martini and lecture someone about a book he has not finished. Lois will stand in the kitchen and perform the role of the reasonable wife while the house burns around her. Chris will be in the room. Quagmire will say giggity, and 4 million people will watch, and most of them will laugh, and the show will deposit another question in front of them and walk away. The question is not about the Griffins. It has never been about the Griffins. The Griffins are a mirror. The show holds them up and asks you to look at what you see. Not at them, at yourself. At the person who has been watching a family suffer since 1999 and has been entertained by it. At the person who laughed when Peter said, "Shut up, Meg." At the person who repeated giggity without thinking about what Quagmire does when the cameras are not on him. At the person who watched Brian die and signed a petition to bring him back and never stopped to ask why they cared so much about a character the show had spent a decade proving was a fraud. Family Guy has been asking one question for 25 years. It asks it in every episode. It asks it in every joke. It asks it in every cutaway gag that interrupts a moment of genuine pain with a parody of something from the 80s. The question is simple. What are you willing to laugh at? And the answer, documented across 450 episodes and 24 seasons and 25 years of American television, is you. The answer is always you. The answer is whatever version of yourself shows up when the lights are dim and the cartoon is on, and nobody is watching you the way you're watching them. That is the last secret. Not about Meg, not about Peter, not about Stewie or Brian or Quagmire or Lois or Chris or the town of Quahog or the floating timeline or the reset loop or the cancellation or the revival. The last secret is about the person who watched all of it, who laughed at all of it, who came back for more of it, week after week, year after year, for a quarter of a century. The show was never hiding anything from you. Every secret in this video was presented in plain sight, in episodes that aired on network television, in scenes that played exactly the way they were written. The information was always there. Meg's sacrifice was always there. Stewie's mask was always there. Brian's fraud was always there. The show placed every piece of evidence directly in front of you, inside jokes and gags and musical numbers that made it easy to look away. And you looked away because it was funny, because it was a cartoon, because it was easier to laugh than to think about why you were laughing. The show counted on that. It has been counting on it since 1999, and it has been right every single time. The Griffin family lives in a town where nothing changes. The audience lives in a world where everything changes. And yet, since the show first aired, the relationship between the show and the viewer has remained exactly the same. The show presents darkness as comedy. The viewer accepts it. The show tests a boundary. The viewer laughs. The show resets. The viewer comes back. The cycle continues. The loop holds. Family Guy is not a show about a family in Quahog, Rhode Island. It is a show about what happens when you give an audience permission to laugh at suffering. It turns out that the audience takes the permission every time, without hesitation, without conditions, for 25 years. That is the secret underneath every secret we have spent 2 hours discussing. Not what the show does to its characters, what it does to us, and what we let it. There is a scene in Family Guy that most people have seen and few people have thought about carefully. It is in the opening credits. It plays before every single episode. Peter sits at the piano. The family gathers around him. Lois sings. The whole family joins in. They perform a song about how everything on television today is sex and violence, and how the family misses the old days when entertainment was wholesome. The song is ironic. It is meant to be ironic. Family Guy is one of the most sexually explicit and violent comedies in the history of American animation, and the opening credits feature the cast singing about wanting something better. The irony is the joke, but irony is a funny thing. It requires 2 layers, the surface and the thing underneath. The opening credits show a family singing about wanting better entertainment. The episodes that follow show a family that would not survive better entertainment. The Griffins need the chaos. Meg needs to be the scapegoat. Peter needs to be destructive. Stewie needs the mask. Brian needs the performance. The family needs the dysfunction, the way a fire needs oxygen. Take it away and the whole thing collapses. Seahorse, Seashell Party proved that. The show proved it once and has been running on the proof ever since. Every Sunday, before every episode, the Griffins sing about wanting better days. And then the episode starts, and the better days do not come. They never come. They were never going to come. The song is a promise the show makes to itself that it has no intention of keeping. And the audience sings along because the song is catchy and the lyrics are funny, and nobody stops to notice that the family is telling you every single week in their own theme song that they know the world they live in is worse than the one they want. They just cannot get there from here. 25 years of that song. 25 years of that promise. 25 years of a family sitting at a piano, pretending they want something different, while the show behind them proves, episode after episode, that different is the one thing they will never be allowed to have. The loop holds, the song plays, the episode starts. Peter does something stupid, Meg absorbs it, the town rebuilds, the audience laughs, the credits roll, and next week, the piano starts again. If you enjoyed this video, subscribing is free, and it is the main reason content like this gets made. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one.